What's up, everybody? Welcome back. I want to get into just some cases and travel accessories for the Switch. And these aren't the normal travel cases. This is more of something you slide your Switch into to use as a case. First one I'm gonna go with is this guy right here, just because it uses the standard Joy-Cons, has some bump outs here. This is worse than the freaking V1, V2 kickstands. This little piece of crap thing. This is super flexible. My big gripe on this, and you probably see it right away, your game slots are behind the Switch itself. And albeit this does slide in kind of nice and curves over the top and sits there and holds it. Gives it not much room off the top of the screen, holds everything, but if you're traveling with your games and that, you gotta pull it out to get to your other game slots in the back. Which I don't want to have to yank this thing in and out, in and out, in and out every time I want to change cartridges. All this is fairly decent and somewhat good protection. And these are cheap in price and build quality, but I mean the flexibility of it gives it something of if you drop this, this is probably going to survive as long as you're not landing face down. Other thing I want to talk about is this. This is the JC200. What this does is essentially mimics the Joy-Cons. I forgot who makes the bigger, larger third-party ones. I know Nintendo has a couple of official ones, I think, but whoever makes the larger third-party ones of these. There is a couple of locking tabs here on the back that these will lock in. It has a couple of macro buttons. Your other SL and SR buttons are on the back, and also light and memory. So you could set up some macros to these triggers down here when you're holding it. Hold stuff. It does have a battery and does light up, which there goes. I actually have the lights on this turned down, but it just kind of has a couple of, it has some hot spots with the lights. It does a few effects like breathing and things like that, but just slide the switch in, comes down. These slide over on the sides, and you're pretty much good to go. Works just like a normal wireless switch. And just going through, changing the colors. I usually leave it with the lights off, save a little bit of battery. And the thing is this has a separate battery. The controller section has a separate battery than the Switch itself. So they have to charge separately. It does come with a USB-C Y adapter, so you can plug your Switch in and this controller at the same time and charge them both. The thing I do like about this one too is it has 4 game slots across the back, similar to the other one, but these ones you can actually get to without having to pull the whole Switch out. Has the locking tabs, so that way this isn't going to slide up and out of here. Spider design on the top, if it's your taste, take it, leave it. But does work, just connects same as any other third-party wireless Joy-Con. Because that's all it really is a pair of wireless Joy-Cons. There's no sliding pieces on the inside. It does not interlock into the side of the Switch or anything, kind of like these ones do. And it just works. This one, on the other hand, I ordered a different variation of this one, and I got this because this side is supposed to be the other way around. They sent me the wrong one. And then they wanted me to send this one back and pay for shipping. And I was like, no, you send me the right one and you pay for shipping for the wrong one to go back to you. After a lot of arguing, I just kind of gave up and kept this because it It's not really that bad or anything like that. This one, kind of like the other one, there's several differences. It doesn't have the macro buttons or any of the lights or anything on the top. As your two triggers, and the triggers actually feel good. This one, they're decent. I mean, they got some good play. The top ones are where the issue comes in. These ones are, while they're clicky and that, they still feel cheap. It's that cheap third-party plastic, but these are more of the style of triggers I'm used to playing with on every other console, so it's kind of nice that it's not that weird curved thing that Nintendo does. All these pieces do here for the regular Switch and the regular OLED, they just slide out these black plastic pieces to make it fit tighter. It has a turbo function. The other one has that too, down here on the bottom with the buttons, but it kind of gives you all of your buttons up here on the side instead of being down here on the bottom or up on the top. They shove them in a little bit closer in one spot next to your thumbs, where when you're playing, they're all sitting on the sides. Now, if you notice on this one, it has a USB-C port down on the bottom. So when you slide the Switch in, you'll have to have to bend that a little bit to actually make it fit. It'll come in and it actually pulls power from the Switch to run this. I haven't had any issues so far on my regular Switch or on my OLED. There are not game slots on this. Has the charging port in the bottom. Everything works just fine. None of these have like little docking stands. I don't know why you'd want a docking stand if you're using this attached to it. I guess maybe if you wanted to hook it up to the TV or something else. But this controller works fine on my other two Switches. Because you have to set this up as a wired Pro controller. You have to have that enabled inside of your Switch itself in the settings menu. This Switch right here, this controller does not work on. These work fine on it. This one works fine on it. The other controllers I have work fine on it. This one does not work. It's a modded Switch. And when it comes up and it loads, if we go into launch, if I launch the stock system, this controller works just fine. If you go into any of the two custom firmware menus, this controller does not work. It's my only gripe with this controller is it does not work on that. But that's not the fault of the controller, that's the fault of the modified Switch. So, custom firmware guys, figure out a way to make this stuff work on here because I actually really like this controller over this one. This one just feels better and fits better in my hand, so it'd be nice if it did work. Or, you know, if somebody knows of a way to make that happen, let me know. Right now, it's pulling 289 milliamps. But as you can see here, I have nothing, and there's not a separate on-off switch for this controller. It just doesn't connect on this screen. It'll only work in the stock firmware. But outside of that, it does work great. Anyways, that's just a couple of the larger, just kind of going full Switch mode accessories for the Switch, as far as one of just using factory Joy-Cons and sliding it in, other ones that are their own controller and kind of little case dock thing for them. They all work great. They all have their pros and cons. Anyways, thanks for stopping in. Have a good night, and we'll see you in the next one.